Remember last week I went over a little bit about bit of a history of Atomy company itself, which we don't normally find out on the website unless you read Korean, because that's something. These are some of the information that kind of interests me to do Atomy as a business, because as I mentioned, I tried a product, but I wasn't really interested in terms of business because it was an MLM, and I didn't even have a 0.01% of checking the information. But when I fell in love with the Hemohim and with the product, I searched the information, and those are the names that I found. And when I first went to center to find more about Atomy, at the time, the image or the name value of Atomy wasn't there. Because when we go to one-day seminar, and when we talk about Atomy, we don't talk about them anymore, because the name value or the Hemohim, it's already popular. People already know it's good. People already know Atomy is a global company. So the power of Atomy is there already. But when I joined, we really have to talk about the Colmar. We really have to talk about the Colmar B&H. I'm not sure how many of you saw his picture. Probably you saw his picture several times from other one-day seminar. When we did a one-day seminar, we never missed talking about him, because we have to kind of sell him. We need to kind of promote him. We have to kind of advertise him, because he is behind of creating a Hemohim. So we have to tell the people that Hemo is not just coming from us simple company, it's coming from us scientists. And when we tell other people, when we kind of sell him, because we didn't have many people, we didn't have much official documents or ratings to prove how this company is good. So if you find, his last name is Byun, but he's a Dr. Byun Myung-woo. If you research a little bit about him, because every year in the whole world, they always find 100 top scientists, and he always part of the list. So he's not just the top scientist in Korea. He was part of the one of the 100 scientists in the world. And when we're talking about the space food, he's behind creating of the space food also. But before that, probably since Mike already talked about how CEO Hangul Park get to know about online shopping mall, net marketing, it was a great story. Probably you haven't heard before. Whole story behind Hemohim. Okay, right? Start with him. So he has been a chief for Korean Atomic Energy Research Institute, KERI, for many years. And actually he is one of the top scientists, like the most popular scientists in Korea, because Korea, after Korea War 1950, Korea was a very poor country, but how it was able to become country right now, because of this sciences over here. So he's scientist, Dr. Jang In-sun. So his name is Jang, and he also created a book. I don't know how much I can really translate this into English, because his imagination can hold the universe and beyond. So have a great imagination all the time. That's basically what is it. The reason I put this one over here, because on this book, the book that he wrote, they talk about Atomy, they talk about Hemohim, and they talk about CEO Hangul Park. Because how they met, how Atomy was created, how CEO Hangul Park end up selling Hemohim. It's not just a normal story you will hear from a book. So all the story, because like I mentioned, when we started 2014, not many people know about Atomy, and people still looking at Atomy as a MLM company, like negative. People still have a negative image of network marketing, so people don't really want to get involved. So we all had this book. So when we are kind of sharing to people, if they're Korean, oh, Atomy is on this book, so you can trust this company. So this was one of our marketing tool at the time. So he's behind of creation of a Hemohim, and those are the two scientists actually part of the project. And some of you already have seen this document. You know, like when you search for Hemohim official document, FDA document, you will see the inventors, because this is an actual document presented to US FDA to be approved, and these are the names. So you will see here, Dr. Jo Sung-gi and Dr. Byun Myung-woo. These two doctors over here. So for this project, we hear many stories, like 30 scientists or 10 scientists, but from the latest information that I got from the people who kind of knows the whole story, they say it was an exact 10 top scientists, but below 10, of course, they have their assistants. So probably be combined as a total of 30. So they are behind of creation of Hemohim, and we all know Hemohim was created not for general public. Hemohim was created for the scientists. They are all working. They're all scientists working at Kerry. And the government just asked them, because of course he always go to, because he's a you know, every country, they do have a different department, and he's a department of science. So of course he always go to the city hall for, you call it city hall or capital, for the meetings. The capital, the country budget and all this stuff. So he attended those political meetings, and what they found out, every year, country set aside a certain budget for research and development, and they found out they're using a lot of taxes which they gather from the citizens. They're using for the research and development. So all the money they have gathered from the citizens, the tax money, because it's a hard earning money from the citizens of the Korean citizens, but they are using for the research and development for Kerry. So what he thought, what if, right? What if they are able to sell Hemohim? Because they already funded $5 million US dollars, $5 million to create a Hemohim, to boost their immune system, and Hemohim came out, and the result was amazing. So what they have decided, what if we can sell this product, Hemohim, and with all the money, all the profit that we made from Hemohim, we don't have to get the money from the government anymore. We don't have to get those taxes anymore. So those taxes can be used for other better purposes. So that was a whole story behind how Hemohim was able to get hands of normal citizen like us. And what this book is talk about, because as we all know, Korean Atomic Energy Research Institute, KERI, is a government institution. So they are not allowed to sell product for profit. Anything they do, it's research-based. They're not allowed to sell it. Even Hemohim was created for their own health. It's not to sell to make a profit. So in order for them to do that, in this book, they're talking about how they have to change the legislation. They have to go through a lot of process. Whole story about how Hemohim, how KERI were able to sell Hemohim in retail. So probably you heard how much Hemohim was selling. One box they were selling it for, you heard 500 to 750. You probably heard those range numbers. One box, even at the time when they were start selling, it was only 30 sachet inside a box. Imagine 30 sachet inside a box, and you have to pay like $500 to $700. How many can really afford unless you're super rich, right? So basically, what happened? So KERI starts selling the product, right? KERI starts selling the product, but since they cannot really, because they're scientists, they don't know how to market the product. They don't know how the business side of the thing works. So they cannot really come up with the profit they're expecting. So once they produce, like in a month, they can produce like a 3,000 the volume of a Hemohim, but they end up selling 500 sets every month for 6 months. That's it. After that, they figured out they won't be able to survive anymore. Yay! This is how Hemohim looked when it came out. So, and then it wasn't Hemohim, and it's not the box that you look, and probably some of you have seen it already. And then some people actually ask me, what's a Hemo Rich? That was a name. It says a Hemo Rich. Nice, isn't it? And the box we have, it's a newest version. And even the sachet looks a bit different. And they even have a tablet. They have a tablet for Hemohim. So they had a different product at the time. And they were first selling at the market at Carry, but later they were able to sell it in department stores. But imagine how many people can actually afford $500 to $700 monthly. And if you are taking 2 per day, that one box, it's not a month supply. It's only for 15 days. So basically you have to pay like $1,000 to really consume Hemohim. So there's no future for the business. And we all know Atomy, the products, not everything, but 80% of our product coming from Colmar B&H. So that's the name we advertise these days. But before Colmar B&H, what they have, this was a name before, Sun Biotech. So if you were really diligent checking information about Atomy, probably you're familiar with the Sun Biotech. So Sun Biotech, as we know, it says over here, this is a joint venture. Oh, this picture kind of cut it. So after this signage here underneath, it says joint Colmar Korea, Korean Atomic Energy Research Institute joint venture. So they both kind of invest like a 500,000. They start a company. So that's why they were able to start selling. But as we all know, think about it. Like I mentioned, Carrie, all the scientists working there, only thing they know how to do research, how to come up with a better the food option, the better electricity. That's the only thing they can research about. And Colmar Korea, what are they famous about? Manufacturing, the cosmetics, pharmaceuticals, the skincare. So they're good at making, but they really don't know how the business works. So like I mentioned, they started 2004. They created a company 2004, but they're almost closing down. They decided to actually close it down 2006, but that's where CEO Park comes in. So when you kind of hear the story, it's like a story, really a story. It's kind of hard to believe how actually everything kind of come to one story together. So Mike already mentioned that CEO Park had a liver cirrhosis. That's why his doctor friend told him that he only probably have 6 months to live. And remember last week I talked about the number one, Mr. Yoon. So Mr. Yoon, they all know each other. I don't know how, but they all know each other. And they even this Dr. Zhang knows CEO Park. How? When CEO Park was in university or in high school, they had a Bible class. So how Bible and science, they kind of correlated. So they had that class. And the CEO Park was a student. It's not CEO Park going to him like as a stranger. Can I sell him? No, they had a relationship before. He was a teacher, right? He was a professor, and then he was a student. People heard that CEO Park got liver cirrhosis and he was losing weight, and like Mike mentioned, he also had a diabetes. So it was a really critical condition, and he thought that he's gonna be gone after 6 months. So many people who heard the story, they start sending products, like ginseng or anything they were sending. And he also got Hemohim, right? Mr. Yoon got connected with the Dr. Zhang, and he got Hemohim. So of course they didn't know. They wanted to try everything. But out of all the product they got, he tried Hemohim. Amazing things starting to happen. So like I think last year when Mr. Yoon was here, we had a 1-hour lecture how he was able to recover from Hemohim. When he probably the people who has a liver failure, their skin color turns like dark black and they lose weight. So CEO Park, according to the number one, Mr. Yoon, the CEO Park, when he was going through that stage, hard to recognize him, because when you look at Mr. Hangye Park right now, he's handsome and he has a very fair white skin. But at the time when he was sick, he was almost dying. It was really, he said, like really dark, it was really out of weight, and he cannot even walk because he was so weak. So this is the old testimony of a CEO Hangye Park. After taking Hemohim, he was able to walk 100 meters. Imagine, it was hard for him to actually even stand up and walking. But after taking Hemohim, he called Mr. Yoon that he was able to walk. And his health condition got better. We see healthy looking CEO Hungry Park. So how out of all those, because many people has a question, why CEO Hungry Park? There are so many people out there buy, but how Carrie found CEO Hungry Park to sell? Like I mentioned, they had acquaintances before, and CEO Hungry Park already failed. He's living a second life because of Hemohim, and that's why he made a suggestion. Because like I mentioned, 2006, that's a year that some biotech almost closing down because they don't have any more capital to run the business. But CEO Hungry Park, he has experience. So he said, I'm good at selling. Give me the product, I will sell. Because he gained his health and he was living a very poor life at the time. So he wanted to do something, right? Because he knew this Hemohim can make a difference in many people's life. And since he already had experience, he did no marketing and he did a manufacturing. He has so many experience. So he said, just give me this product, right? Give me access to this product. I will start selling. That's why he established Atomy Company 2006, before some biotech closing it down. So 2006, Atomy opened, but Atomy didn't have an official office. They just had a small office and they didn't have a signage. So they put in the A4 paper, they put Atomy. That's how they started it. And when Atomy started it, they didn't start it as a milk marketing. They just started as a direct selling. So people who joined at the time, they were actually door-to-door selling the products. And how many products they had at the time? Hemohim plus 6 skincare set. That's the only product they have. And later they end up adding toothpaste, not even toothbrush. They added toothpaste. So, but those are all the product came from Komabini and the some biotech at the time. So that's just kind of story. That's story how Atomy got started and how CEO Hungry Park got access to Hemohim, because many people wants to know how. I mean, there are so many people, so many CEOs in Korea, but why out of blue CEO Hungry Park? And then you mentioned that CEO Hungry Park also struggled because he didn't have money, but how they were able to find CEO Hungry Park. There is a relationship, or they have a whole history behind. And then you probably wonder who he is. So he is Dr. Song Yeon Lee, and there is a lot of lectures done by Song Yeon Lee. And every Success Academy, not right now, but before, every one-day seminar or Success Academy, besides CEO Hungry Park's lecture, we always listen to Song Yeon Lee's lecture, because his lecture it's making us intelligent. Not just selling, not just selling Atomy products or just sharing Atomy. He also helping us to gain knowledge about the world, how is world changing, how to have a right attitude for the business, and how we can treat other people nicely. So he basically talk about whole different areas. It was funny for me to find out that he's a brother-in-law of CEO Hungry Park. I was laughing. CEO Hungry Park, probably he's a nice person. There's so many nice people around him, right? So, and if you know his resume, he's been a professor. He's been a professor at the Korean Army for 30 years. It's a great resume. Even he said he made a joke one time that when he was making a lecture. He's very intelligent, and I don't know how he memorized all those names, but he's really good, and he's a really good storyteller. And he's like, don't get me wrong that I'm doing this because I don't have the money, because you all know that I've been a professor for like more than 30 years, so I'm getting a good pension from the government already. So he said he's getting more than 5,000 a month. So he's just doing it because it has been asked by CEO Hungry Park. But I didn't, of course, he's not going to say he's my brother-in-law, but later I found out. And he was a tutor for CEO Hungry Park's sister. That's how they first met. So he was a tutor for CEO Hungry Park's sister. That's how they met. And because of his intelligence, CEO Hungry Park asked him, because he knows he wanted to make this Atomy company. He wants to make the success of people, not just success in money, because it's meaningless. Because he's seen it. He has seen it already. So Mike went over CEO Park's resume already. CEO Park did MLM, and he went to the top. And he also did the president for all those network marketing in Korea. So he knows the lifestyle, or he knows how those people will be treated in a society. People will say, oh, you're making that much money, but what do you do? MLM, and people disrespect them, or people look down on them. Doesn't matter how much you're making. People say that if you got that money from MLM, there's zero respect. So he wants to change the whole image. Atomy is not the company you are after money. His mission is to make all the leaders, ladies and gentlemen. So when you hear his lecture, you will know that, oh, that's the information I didn't know about it. I'm getting more information. So he's helping us intellectually. So if you see the whole story behind it, you know how amazing CEO Hangil Park. Because in order for him to have all the relations, he probably because he mentioned several times that he wasn't a top student. He wasn't that smart at school. But in order for him to get attention from those people, probably there's something, some charm that he attract all the people from good areas. So that's why he was able to create Atomy, and he was able to create Atomy because of what Mike mentioned, IamKorea.com. Because we know he went failure. He experienced failure. If some of the other people, if they experience failure, probably they won't be able to get up. But based on the experience that he had, he already have experience running online shopping mall. So for him, opening Atomy, easy. So that's what CEO Hangil Park sometimes says, don't fall down when you fail. You can learn from it. From all those experiences, he learned and he created Atomy. And now we're getting benefit from the company that he created it. So I also recommend, besides CEO Hangil Park and other leaders' lectures, I also recommend you to watch some of Dr. Sung Hyun Lee's lecture, because there are a lot of information that you get courage by watching CEO Dr. Sung Hyun Lee. Really, you will get courage to move forward with Atomy business.